All right. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. Um, I had to wait for my heater to turn off before I could start the stream because, for whatever reason, it is loud as shit today. Although it's probably because it's working overtime because it's the freaking middle of March and it's still balls cold. They usually say balls hot, but it's balls cold down here. And for Virginia, that's something. Figured this cold weather would be out of here by now. We really don't see the benefit of Virginia is you still get all four seasons, but you don't get them because and I've said repeatedly that I grew up in upstate New York, uh, and yeah, we get winter to an extreme up there. The rest of the seasons are pretty mild. Down here, it's about even with all of the seasons, except I don't know. This year just seems a lot colder for winter in Virginia. I don't know why. I don't know if it's colder or if it just seems to if the colder temperatures seem to be lasting longer. So I don't know. Who knows? Um, but yeah, good morning. Welcome to the morning rant. I know I took yesterday off. Uh, I was originally gonna do an episode yesterday. It's just I wasn't really feeling it. Um, I had, if anybody pays attention, I originally had obviously um I had the time set for normal 10:30 Eastern, and then I switched it to was it six something last night. But then I had to have something delivered, and it was taking so long that I was almost sure that it was going to be delivered right in the middle of me streaming, and I don't like being interrupted in that way. Um, so I pushed it off further, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just take the day off and do it, tomorrow, meaning today. But yeah, so no stream yesterday, moving it to today. Just had to switch the thumbnail graphic because it still had yesterday's date on it. So yeah, that's a thing. Um, ugh. It's weird. You go one day without doing it, and then you feel like you're all disheveled and out of sorts. How have I already been talking for 4 minutes? Good lord. Um, so yeah, this is why people don't take breaks because it throws you off. Even 24 hours makes a difference. But so yeah, I believe what's today? Wednesday? Let me see here. Yeah, today's Wednesday. Tomorrow we won't have a stream until probably 8:30 or 9 at night because Chad is going to be with me, but he has to work in the morning. He is a photographer for a company that goes around and does school photos. And it's weird. When I was in school, I remember only having the beginning of the year photos. But down here, there are, um, you know, beginning of the year photos. There are mid-year photos. There are end of the year photos. There's senior photos. It, I don't know. Like that just seems excessive. Um, but I've learned a lot in almost 10 years about the differences between, how they do things up north and how they do things down here in the south. I don't know if that's necessarily the the way that they do it in every state, but I know that where Chad's from in North Carolina, um, that's seemingly how they do things. But no, he and I are gonna have some fun tomorrow talking about, once again, the perpetually offended. But so yeah, that's tomorrow evening. So stay tuned for that. Today, see this. I don't know if this is gonna have me sounding like a hypocrite, um, because obviously, by virtue of me doing these live streams or putting videos up on my YouTube, um, I know. I mean, obviously, I am an online content creator, um, but I follow many online content creators, which were some of them were the reason that I started making content back in, was it 2018? And I think what interested me in doing it was because I saw how, or at least presumably how, they interacted with their audience. And it just, especially when most everybody lives their life online nowadays, and even back then, but more so now because we're so used to being home and being secluded and all that. It I think it surprises me when I see a creator that I follow who seems to pride themselves on being connected to their community, but then they exhibit behavior where they seem to only interact with those in their community that they favor, those that provide something to them. I was in a Twitch streamer's live the other day, and this particular streamer boasts how they feel like they're extremely connected to their community, like they always know kind of what's going on with their community. But I, their community is so large that I don't think that that's even possible. um and I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors that go into it, but I think just the other day it bothered me because you get 3,000 people in your live chat. Obviously, you're not going to be able to catch all the messages that are coming through because they're coming through at a rapid pace. Oh, oh, excuse me, hiccups. That is what happens when you wolf down breakfast because you're trying to be on time. Um, but no, this particular streamer, they were talking to, and I'm trying to use, you know, words that don't indicate who they are. Um, but they were talking to certain people in the chat, but they were completely glossing over um, other people that were obviously, because there are times where the chat is going, rapid fire. And then there are times where the chat slows down. And when the chat slows down, it seems as though it seems logical to me that the streamer would then try to catch up with messages that they may have missed. Um, not and it didn't necessarily happen that way because, and maybe I don't know, I'm probably not the only one that kind of takes it personally when that happens. Um, they had mentioned something, and normally when I go into a live chat, I'll just sit there and watch. I don't necessarily chat because I know that, my any message I send is going to get buried in a bunch of bullshit, around a bunch of other messages that don't mean anything. So I tend to just watch. But when I feel I have something valid to offer to the conversation, I do so. And this was one of those times. But they seem to be reading the messages before mine and the messages after mine, and you knew that they could clearly see mine because the chat was going slow enough at this point, but they just glossed over it. And I think when you're somebody who I mean, as much as this individual, boasts that, they're so connected to their community, it just seems a little hypocritical. Um, because I guarantee the same thing would happen if I, sent something in their Discord. Typically, when I've seen this particular streamer and, a couple others, uh, they really only pay attention to messages that are sent when they're sent through means of that voice to text option, where you can send a tip or a donation to the streamer and you can have a message read out to them on their screen with an electronic voice. All streamers automatically will respond to those. Although the other night they really didn't. They, just kept yammering on and completely missing some of the ones that people were sending. But I wonder if streamers get in over their head to a certain degree when they get a following that is as large as this streamer and a few other streamers like them have. Because when you get hundreds of thousands of, millions uh, of followers, I mean, obviously it's overwhelming, but it seems to me that you should be able to find ways to manage that, especially if you're, like I said, somebody who boasts that they're so close to their community and so in tune with their community. Um, I don't know. It really irks me. And even last night, I was in another streamer's uh, live stream chat, and I had said a few things, and they responded, and then all of a sudden, because their numbers as far as their live stream was considerably lower, because they're more TikTok than they are Twitch. Um, but eventually, like their chat was going at a very slow pace, and where everybody could read what was going on and what everybody was saying. But eventually, even though some of us were actually contributing to the conversation that they were presenting. They were glossing over so many that were, addressing the things that they were talking about. And it's like if you're going to have a just chatting um label on your stream, because that's what Twitch does. Um if you're going to have a just chatting label on your stream, make sure that you are fully equipped to manage all of the messages that you're going to receive, because you can't say that you're in tune with your community or connected to your community when I can guarantee with the first streamer, I could probably send out a poll to a fraction of their community, and I guarantee probably 50 to 65% would say that they don't feel seen in that community. And I don't understand how you get to that point where you don't know how to manage interacting with people that are legitimately contributing to the conversation you're having. Um, that's why when Amanda and I started the podcast, we initially started on Twitch, but the problem that we had wasn't we didn't have a problem with the numbers, because at that point we only had 4 or 5 people that would come in and watch the live stream. Um, the problem that we particularly had was that our group of people that came in didn't seem to care about what we were talking about. They were having side conversations in the chat, and it used to piss me off. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I don't care who sees this. It pissed me off. Um, they couldn't have cared less what we were talking about. They were trying to get our attention to discuss what they were discussing in the chat. Um, well, mind you, that was 4 or 5 people, and had they stayed on topic with us, we would have been able to include them in the conversation. Um, but it blows my mind how these live streamers say that they are I got to take a breath here. Uh so connected to their community, but I have to wonder, and I put this up on my Facebook last night. Are people who are perpetually online, do they eventually become disconnected from the real world around them? Like, do they forget how to actually interact with people, um, because of the fact that they are perpetually online and they have to interact? I mean, I don't know if they interact differently. It's a different means of communication, but it's still interacting in the same way, I would think. But then on the other hand, are people who are not dialed in to being online as frequently, are they is there a disconnect there as well? Like, would they know how to handle interacting online? And, you know, like Amanda and I always say, that the main focus of the podcast is, you know, conversation, how people communicate, and how conversation is formed and directed by certain topics and by the information we are given within those topics. Um, so it just it I don't know, it bugged me, and I know it's gonna sound to some like I'm saying, "Oh, they didn't pay attention to me. I'm, offended, this, that, and the other." No, it's not even has nothing to do with that, but it has everything to do with how certain content creators present themselves and, you know, how they really, really are. Now, I will say, what the hell is on my finger? I don't know. I will say that um, that probably wasn't smart considering I don't know what that was on my finger, but oh well. If I get sick, I get sick. Um, Shit, where was I going with that? I have no idea. My finger is not even something shiny and it distracted me. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. And then I was watching, and I still haven't seen the whole thing yet. I'm only seeing clips online. I really gotta, watch the entire thing. I was watching another clip on TikTok from Chris Rock's recent comedy special, and one thing that he said is, and this is somebody who isn't perpetually online, but he's also not so far disconnected from online culture that he doesn't understand it. He understands it very well because communicating is part of his job by virtue of him being a comedian and being on stage and interacting with people. He said that we have become a society of people who is just addicted to attention. And that's honestly what I felt like with these 2 streamers that kind of inspired this rant. Um, they only they only seem to pay attention to those that are giving them the kind of attention they want. Whereas somebody like me, I don't necessarily do this for attention. I do it for interaction because especially the last 3 years, I've learned how important interaction is, especially when you're kind of forced to either disengage from interaction or you find other means of interacting with people. And that was more so me because I've always been the type to improvise. If something changes, I improvise so that I can maintain doing the thing that I was doing before, in this case, interacting with people. And I think that's why I got so heavy into content creation was because the ways in which I was interacting with people was changing drastically and has changed drastically over the last 10 years because I don't have a lot of uh, in-person interaction with friends, so to speak, because if you had known me in um, what do you call it? When I was growing up in New York, I was always around people. I was always interacting. I was always having conversations. Um, Down here in the last 10 years in Virginia, it I don't have as many opportunities to be in those groups of people, in those types of groups of people to have those in-person conversations. So I've had to improvise and adapt, which I'm very comfortable doing, but it's definitely it's definitely an adjustment. Um, I just wonder if some of these people who are perpetually online forget how to periodically adjust to the change in or a shift in interaction and communication. Um, is I don't know. It's one of those weird things that just kind of bothered me, and I wanted to kind of get on here and I wanted to see what you guys thought. Have you ever been supportive of an online content creator, but when you actually try to interact with them when they are live, do you not feel like you're being seen? And, you know, how do you handle that is what I'm curious of. Because I'm like I said, I'm sure that with the first creator that I, was referring to, I'm sure that I'm not the only one who feels like I'm just somebody that is kind of in the background, you know, I can't really say jumping up and down trying to join the conversation because obviously I don't jump. Um, but I feel like they don't know how to manage interacting with their own community because that community is so large. Like I think that there should be uh hi Denise. I'm actually just almost finishing up. Um I'm wondering if they just forget how to interact with others because they are so kind of trained, or they've trained themselves to only interact in one way or another, or in one specific way. I don't know. This was probably more of a scatterbrain word vomit than a rant, um but yeah, let me know what you guys think. Denise, I do apologize. I know you just got here. Um but let me know what you guys think, and I'll address new comments under from this video tomorrow when Chad and I go live tomorrow evening. We will be discussing the movie The Whale with Brendan Fraser. Not necessarily discussing the movie, but discussing the reactions that we're seeing to the movie. Um, it's wild. So I will see you guys tomorrow evening. I'm going to go get a drink because my mouth feels like a desert right now. But yeah, all of the links are in the description. Reach out to me on social media, the donation links, the merch links. And yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow night. Bye. Bye, Denise.